And call a special meeting of council to order for Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. Approve the agenda, please.
That the October 4th, 2023 special council meeting agenda be approved as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Dussault. All in favor? Carried. New business, potential operational increase at District Transfer Station. Report dated October 4th, 2023 from Director of Operations and Infrastructure regarding potential operational increase at the District Transfer Station. Recommendation from... I'll move the recommendation that council receives this report for discussion. Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Carried. Anybody want to start us off? Councillor Noxana.
Looking at the options, I'd be more inclined to go with option 3, having it open for the 2 weeks for spring cleanup and fall cleanup for a year, and we monitor what the usage is on the currently closed days before jumping into adding staff.
Okay. Anything else from council? So my thoughts are the same. I'm not even saying for 2 full weeks, whether it's, obviously we're already open, so if we just open up even on the Sunday and continue to allow staff to figure out the rest of the week, but that would be whether that's Monday off or whatever. But I see that the PRRD, so I sit on the Waste Management Committee, and we had quite the conversation in regards to what we do at other transfer stations, and staff hit it by calling the PRRD and realizing that PRRD does not run 7 days a week at any of their transfer stations. And there's reasons for it, right? Obviously, we're offset in regards to labor through the PRRD back to the district to run the transfer station on their behalf. So I think if we do a couple Sundays in the spring and then a couple Sundays in the fall, instead of trying to do the 2 weeks, 7 days, it gives staff that opportunity to play with that a bit for the spring or for the fall cleanup of yards or houses as well. Just be a thought I'd throw out there to council. Councillor Hoffman.
I'm good with both the ideas. I was on option 3 as well. I would suggest that we leave it to staff to manage that. If we give them the extra leeway for a 6th or a 7th day, if they can manage a 7th grade, and if they can't, then so be it. But I would be open to expanding services there if we need to, and it's going to be used. But if this is just an easy way to see if the Sundays will really make a difference those 2 times a year. So let's see if it makes a difference. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Julik.
Yeah, I'd really like to thank staff for putting this together. It didn't look like an easy report to put together and then to try and come up with numbers and stuff. So I agree option 3 is probably the best one to go with at this point. I would really like to make sure that we keep an eye on it and try and get some feedback from our residents after that. Like maybe the Monday, Tuesday would be preferable for folks rather than the Sunday, Monday. But at the same time, we're not going to please everybody, so I'm okay with that. But I do like to have that option in the spring and the fall and see what kind of feedback we get. And I especially like that it can be absorbed into our already set operational budget. So at this point, we only did for discussion, so I could make a motion now to...
No, I think we just let it for discussion, and we got a couple people, and we can come back for a motion. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Not to repeat what everyone's saying, I also agree with option 3. But I think if we're gathering data, one of the important things to try and capture is an increase, right? So if we open an extra day Sunday and we see, well, 50 people are using Sunday, but we lose 50 throughout the week, we're not actually seeing an increase of usage. I would like to see the additional days be recorded as above and beyond what would be used in a traditional week, month period, to really know if that extra day is being used because it's convenient, or are we capturing that excess waste loss that's going into the bush, right? Because, I do hear concerns from the community about the waste dumpage in the woods or surrounding areas, and I want to make sure that if we do go down an increased service delivery, is that would actually capture that versus just having an extra day or what have you, that we're just spreading it out versus, capturing that excess waste being dumped. Thanks.
So you're looking for them to be able to capture the weight of material leaving the district? Because I don't think at this point, and I mean, go back to staff, but I don't think we count how many people come down to the transfer station. But I would think they would have an idea of the capacity load that the transfer station is seeing.
To be honest, I'm not exactly sure exactly how we want to capture it, but we need to have some sort of statistic that is measurable, right? And however we decide that, whether it's people, whether it's weight, whether it's whatever, but we have to have some sort of statistic, and I'd like to see that compared to now versus then on those extra days. Because if we're only seeing, say, 50,000 pounds go out in a week, and then we increase the service and we still have 50,000 pounds, we're not increasing the service we need, we're just increasing the days. So it doesn't seem like it'd be worth the rub to increase service.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. Mr. Woodward, just wondering if we can hear back from staff on that. And I mean, I don't want to speak at a turn where they track people or weight or whatever, if they figure there's a way to be able to track if this goes forward.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Jason, Director of Operations, can respond to that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, if we're just doing a spring and fall campaign, then we can track the usage by people attending, because they do have to check in at the transfer bins. As far as weight, that would be pretty difficult to do, because some of the materials go in the transfer bins, some of them go in the bulk bins, so that would be a difficult thing to accomplish. But as of right now, we'd be able to track the people that come down there and have the usage. Also, as a reminder in the report, anything that we decide here today, we'll have to bring back to PRRD.
Yeah, it'll have to go back to PRD. So when you talk about we're able to track people, are we tracking people today? Because that's what we're looking for, I believe, is the difference, right? So if we're not tracking people now, can we start so that if we decide to go forward with this, with PRD support, that we're able to track that number? Mr. Woodward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's relatively easy to track. We can use one of the MOT lines across the road, and it'll track the numbers. Or if there's an alternative system, we can find one that's simple.
Okay, so are we tracking numbers down there now, Mr. Woodward?
I don't believe we are.
Currently, at this point in time, Mayor and Council, we are not tracking the numbers. We have done blitzes where I have had them track numbers. Moving forward, if we want to keep like a baseline over the course of a month to see what the usage is, it would have to be, like over the winter months, obviously, we're going to slow down there. So if we start up in the spring, we give it a month before we start the campaign. We'll find out how many people are using it as the projects start coming forward, and we can go from there.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to back up Mr. Norbury's thought. I think data tracking is a very good idea on this. I was also struggling with the idea of, at this moment, of how we're going to do that. Whatever we do, I would like to see automated. I don't want to rely on somebody who's sitting on site, because they're going to be distracted. I think whatever it is, we need, whether it's camera or strip or whatever we do. And also, we do need to factor in the fact that we are not going to have we're not going to have sufficient data at this point, because we don't know what the annual drop or the weekly to monthly annual drops are on given time periods. But I think at least around that time, we might get a sense of there was a blitz and there's a way more usage over that day, then we can at least extrapolate from that. But I'd propose we keep collecting data even after these blitzes for essentially going forward. I think we're also going to, that transfer station is also going to get used for different things over the coming years. So I just think it's a good idea going forward, especially if we can automate it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm just going to put a comment out there, a question back to council, and I've seen it in other communities. It's not within the report. It wasn't something that we asked about. Not everybody has a vehicle to be able to get down to our transfer station. We have great staff that go around weekly for garbage collection, and then this bi-weekly for recycle. I've seen in other communities even a fall stint or campaign where you can put stuff out on your lawn or your driveway, and the district comes around and collects it. So whether that means couches or whatever, maybe just something to think about as we're going into budget, because there would be money there. This here can be captured, I think, within the operational budget as staff has mentioned. I don't think that would be able to be, but I've seen other communities. Chetwynd's one of them that's been doing it. Some other smaller Alberta communities have started to do the same thing, a spring cleanup and a fall cleanup where you can stick stuff out. For people that don't have a truck and they have something, whether it's an old chair or something like that, just think maybe council, we should think of that, see if there's not, that's another option. And, we have a bit of time if we think it's a good idea for staff to kind of maybe capture what we think that would be as a cost on a budgeted item as one of our ideas, but having staff fulfill it. So I've seen it myself. I came from Lacombe, Alberta. They did there, came around with a loader and a dump truck. And it was picked up by the loaders and put into dump trucks and taken back down to there we didn't have a landfill, we didn't have a transfer station, but it was dealt that way. But I see Chetwynd advertise it the other day. So maybe just something to think about. So does anybody want to make a motion in regards to option 3 for staff to reach back out through to the PRD to make sure the PRD would be in favor of us doing it? Councillor Julik.
I make a motion that, I gotta find my page here. Make a motion that council directs administration to begin discussions with the PRRD to expand services at the transfer station as defined in option 3.
Seconder. Councillor Noxana, discussion. Councillor Hoffman.
The only concern I have with the motion as is that it may not allow for that 6 days instead of 7 days over that 2-week period if that becomes an operation of a budgetary or an operational issue. That's the only thought I have for it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. 2024-2025 council initiatives and capital project. Report dated October 4th, 2023 from the Director of Finance regarding the 2024-2025 council initiatives and capital projects. Recommendation? Councillor Dussault?
That council approve the council initiatives and capital projects report for inclusion in the 2024-2028 5-year financial plan process.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. I'll make a comment. It's not that I disagree with that. My opinion, I think maybe we should be discussing it first, or maybe some things that we want to pull off. And my apologies to Councillor Dussault, but that would be my thought. We should maybe discuss, and maybe there's things that need to be pulled off. There's some information there that staff is looking for further direction. I think we need to have that conversation to make sure that some of the items that have been brought forward by councillors and that we have the right information going back to staff so it can come forward properly. I'm not sure what council thinks, but I won't support the motion as on the floor. I think we need to discuss it first. Any more discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. I'll put a motion on the floor for discussion. Seconder, Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Carried. So I'll start off, and Mr. Woodward, it's going to be a lot of direction with comments or questions, and going to need staff input. So I'm just going to leave your mic on just so you're aware.
Sure.
So my questions would be when we talk about flatbed and Qualities Falls, we're talking about parking lot expansion and then the parking lot. Previous budget we asked, we didn't even know who owns those. Just wondering if staff have had the opportunity from our previous budget discussion in 2023 to find out any of that information. I know we couldn't move forward on it because we weren't sure. That was one of the conversations council was having, like who owns it? Like, are we going to start putting capital money into capital items on a parking lot or expand a parking lot that we don't even own? It's actually owned by the ministry. We don't know.
Yeah, we shouldn't be doing that.
So, like I said, I'm just wondering if staff was able to do any, I know they've been busy, we've been able to dialogue any of that information.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Are we,
Sorry.
because it's review of this, can we just have the council ask the questions to the directors, or do you want to still come through me?
You tell me how you want it. Preferably, I'd like to go through the CAO. If you don't want that option, you're okay with me directing it to a senior director that I think is right? That's up to you.
Yeah, I think that would be more appropriate. The latter one would be more appropriate because we've got so many items here.
Okay?
I think it would be easier, a little bit more flexible if we do it that way.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Council, okay with that? Okay, I guess my apologies if I picked the wrong director. If you can just please pass it on to the appropriate one, just in case we mix them up.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have reached out to the appropriate parties, I believe, at this point in time. PRD does not manage our Flatbed Falls parking lot. Neither does Modi. So it's a district parking lot. As far as room for expansion, I'm not sure where we'll go with that as far as space, because it would disrupt the area. There were a few ideas for improvements there that I would like to pursue a little bit further ahead. As far as Quality Falls, I haven't gotten any feedback as far as the parking lot itself or what the initiative was there from Parks and Rec. They were under the understanding that it was just improvements. And then the question there becomes, how does staff manage that?
Okay, so I'll just talk about Flatbed just because you've mentioned it. Is that not Crown land? I believe in the map I've seen, it's Crown land, not DTR owned land.
I would have to get back to you on that.
Okay, and then when we talk about Quality Falls, that's Park and Rec, we believe?
That was Park and Rec that I did talk to about that parking lot, and they were under the belief that it was a request for improvements, not actually expanding that parking lot.
Yeah, and I believe so. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know Councillor Noxana brought forward. I think it was looking for outhouses, garbage cans, and stuff like that. But I mean, you can speak to it. I think that's what we're looking for. But if it's BC Parks and Rec Sites BC that runs it, to me, we should be advocating for them to install this instead of using it as, to me, district funds to put in capital items for the province. Councillor Noxana?
You're correct that Quality Falls wasn't expanding. It's a huge parking lot, but improvements. And it is, if it is owned by BC Parks, then I think that it is something we should be, or Parks and Rec, we should be advocating for them to make improvements there. It's a very busy trail in our area. And Flatbed, I have no idea who owns it. If there's no space to expand it, maybe just some garbage cans would be great to, some clean garbage cans and maybe an outhouse. Sorry, Jason. Just to keep the garbage down in the bush.
I guess, I hate going to staff.
Sorry, Mayor and Council. This year, we did replace the garbage can down there because we were under the assumption that it was a Modi parking lot, but we saw the garbage can that was down there. We do take care of it, so we replaced it.
Thank you for that. I guess just my question was, did we ask BC Park and Rec Sites BC if Flatbed was theirs as well?
The discussion that I had with them was, is this your parking lot? And she explained to me that it was a district property. MPRD does not manage it. So
Okay.
I will get more clear information for you guys moving forward.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Julik?
Well, I understand that we have to be mindful going forward. I also believe that these are two important sites to our community when it comes to tourism. I think they're they're the two that get the most use that are close to town. I know when I was with the with the TAC, one of the issues one of the things we had talked about was expanding the parking lot in an area that maybe isn't quite as close to Flatbed as it is now, but that it's still accessible for people a little bit closer, more for a safety thing rather than as well as the space thing. We could also possibly put up some signs showing people how to park, because that's always interesting to drive by and see how people have chosen to park and maybe kind of all over the place. So I understand that that would be a cost to us, particularly if we continued if we wanted to maintain quality in the wintertime as well, most people park on the highway and then go across. Would we want to plow it or not? Like, I don't think that I'm interested in going there. But definitely just the bathroom use at Quality and the toilet paper left behind. I just think that it's a site that's used quite a bit, and it's part of the thing that comes to our town. So while I understand that it belongs to Flinroe or whatever the acronym is for that department nowadays, I think that there is merit in looking how we might be able to work with them to still do that, even though that doesn't necessarily belong to us. And I would say the bathroom would be the other issue at Flatbed as well, an outhouse. But it would be nice to figure out some different kind of parking if possible. But I don't know what land belongs to the district and what doesn't. Like, I'm just wondering if a person went further west and behind, like, you know, when you're coming out on on Mackenzie, and you've got the signs like behind there, like if there would be an opportunity to put a parking lot and people could walk from that one. It's just for when it's super busy. I didn't see it super busy this year, but I think we need to find a compromise just with those two spots being so heavily used, and it's part of our tourism that is pushing people to those sites.
Yeah, don't disagree with you, but again, if it's BC Parks and sites, to me, we advocate. I bet you previous council, we never even approached them. I think it's not that the town can't go out and assist or we can partnership, but, you know, maybe there can be some support from their side. Again, it's taxation dollars, and then we have liability when we start going out onto somebody else's parcel and doing things like you mentioned. I'm not sure if I'm into snow or removing the snow. To me, when we start doing that, we're taking on liability for somebody else's land and spot. That would be my only concern. Mr. Bradley?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will reach back out to my contacts and get some clarity on this
Appreciate
as
that.
to what we're allowed.
Mr. Councilor Nobre?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I think, you know, you're correct in your assessment. Like, I think our first operation in this is, it sounds like Mr. Bradley's already going to be doing that, is to reach out to them, address, and give them our concerns. Because sometimes it can be as quick as a conversation. Like the roller coasters, you know, when we had that horrible spot on top that people were hitting their mufflers on, all it took was a picture and an email from Mayor Bertrand to the ministry, or to Argo in the ministry, and they fixed it. So sometimes it can be as quick as hey, these are our issues, what can you do? And then we get some assistance. So rather than us take that on, I'd like to put it on them and their duty to our community, because they do have some responsibilities as well. So thanks.
Thank you for that. Any items want to be discussed? I have more, but Councilor Noxana?
If we move back up to walking paths, I would love to see the walking paths be completed. We have a new jump trail further down than the paths go, and that's causing a lot of children and adults bike down the road instead of a safe trail. And I feel like there's other places we could include in there if we loop down to the campground on Mackenzie, Monkman Campground, things like that. Look at options that would help keep our active transportation users safe.
Yeah. So that was another thing I was going to ask, and I was going to ask Mr. Bradley previously. It might have been before your time, Mr. Bradley. So we talked about, council had talked about it, expanding the trail from Monkman to Highway 29, up Highway 29 to Mackenzie and back down. But we didn't have an understanding if it could be a concern from Modi in regards to having enough room there. I'm not going to say follow up the backside of Southpaw, but that's pretty much what it looked like from staff side back then. And then there was talk, again, this council here talked about the trailway continuing on Mackenzie all the way down to the Monkman RV campground. But I'm just not sure if staff has ever reached out to Modi to find out about the trail going on that side by Highway 29.
No, sir. Sorry, Mayor and Council. No, I was not aware of the depth of this trail system, so.
Okay, and I appreciate it. Like I said, it could have been before your time, and apologies that it wasn't discussed a little bit more thorough last in the budget in 2023. But we have a trail map. I'm not sure where that is anymore, but it was actually drawn on the map that we have, and the trail did go out to Highway 29 up to Mackenzie and then back down to kind of make that whole loop complete from the previous councils, starting at, not the councils I was on, even previous to me being on council, was to finish some of the work that they had started. So, but I know there was concern with Modi and stuff on that one. Councilor Noxana?
If we're looking at Highway 29, we should look at looping down towards Flatbed as well with a crosswalk, if that's something Modi would be interested in allowing. And also just wanted to clarify, we're looking at the black path type system, not a sidewalk on the side of a highway, because that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, no, biking trail. Or, I mean, I call them walk paths, and I apologize, but that's what I call them, and if that's not what they are, I'm definitely not looking for a cement sidewalk, a walking path.
Active transportation trails.
Sorry?
Active transportation.
There you go, active transportation trails. So I know that was a map, and I'm not sure if Ms. Torval, if you know where the map has been located, but I know it was done, it was drawn on, and had it back to staff. Not that this council's seen it, which we should probably put in front of them, but I know it was one of my concepts, I brought it forward, and was the will of council for me to draw on the map and bring it back, which we did. And then, but again, I know we were waiting to hear back or have staff reach out to Modi and all that to make sure that we had the right of way on that side of the highway, which we might not. And it would be the same thing as Flatbed. We could check that out too if that's concerned that we want looking at trying to add a path along there. And I think there'd be a huge concern with Modi because it'd have to be a crosswalk on a highway. I do not think that'll pass Modi. So that would be a concern. If we put a walking transportation path there and then we're allowing people to cross with a crosswalk, I'd be concerned. But Mr. Bradley, then I'll come to you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just for clarity on this, was the idea on the trail system along Highway 29, was it to follow the current ATV trail or a different path altogether?
Total different path. So going from Monkman, I hope we can find the map. If not, we can do it again. But it's going straight out Monkman to Highway 29, crossing there by the yield sign. So on our street with a crosswalk, catching it in the ditch, going out behind Southpaw, and then coming back. And I know you might have jetted over. I'm not sure if we own the land on that side where the other light industrial is. I don't even remember what that's called, across from the Public Works. And then down there, that was the idea. And then we knew we'd have to jet it across again because we have the path on the other side of the highway of Mackenzie.
Okay, my question was for clarity's sake was just the terrain there, right? So I wasn't certain if it mirrored alongside the ATV trail or if it was off on its own.
Yeah, far knows off on its own. The ATV trail that I know of over there is through the bush. The guys that might have another trail along the ditch lines, but that trail wasn't there when we started this process. They used to come in past the pond, so and come out where the entrance is. So. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. And for me, my thoughts would be the paved, like the black asphalt.
Yeah.
Right. Not just dirt. Right. Paved asphalt so that we can have real multi-use. I'm thinking people with strollers. Bikes, walkers, stuff like that. So, thanks.
Councilor Julik?
I was thinking the trail behind my Mahon Place. So basically you would come out on Highway 29 and you would turn right immediately into that ditch. So I'm not sure where you guys are talking about having to go across the way, but that's not really what my comment is.
Because, just so you know, because the trail's already on the one side of Monkman.
There's still one on the, but there's a quad snowmobile trail on the north side of the highway. My thought is I think that if we're going to do this, I would like for us to take a good look at where we could do the trails. Like if we're bringing somebody in to do one trail, that we make sure that we're getting it all done at once. Because from what I remember back when we were doing the other trails, it's cheaper to do it all at once than to bring somebody back in again later. So I would want us to do a fairly good look and figure out, like talk to TRMBA and say, okay, where's your next thought about trails or stuff like that. Look at ECDEV and see if they have some ideas about what's coming forward as you look further into this, and we're talking about revitalization of downtown. So trying to make connections and stuff there. So anyways, I have no problem with it, but I think we want to make sure we do something fairly comprehensive.
Yeah, I think we need to get the map back in front of council. Natalie?
To Councillor Noxana, I'm recommending that we'd probably do each trail as a separate dollar figure. So when we bring this part of the budget deliberations with the supplemental forms, that council can make decisions on whether they want to do it all, do parts of it, and it gives a lot more options on it. And maybe they want to do it as a phased, part in 2024, part in 2025. So while I appreciate it all in once, I would recommend against it being one project.
Oh, thank you for that. I was going to mention that, but to me, we need to have the maps for our council. I mean, it doesn't mean this map cannot change, just so everybody's aware. I did draw on a map as from council because I was the one with the idea and they didn't want to partake, so I came in with staff and we drew on a map. It does not mean that that trail cannot change. That's up to this council. And what Modi says, we may not be allowed to go where to me, the loop was supposed to happen from the previous council. Council Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. It might be appropriate to try and put this on a PPC meeting to invite some user groups, stakeholders, to try and take a look at where we all think it should go and where everyone's wants would be, and see what we can put together, right? I mean, everyone's going to want everything, but if we can get everyone in the same room and have a discussion, we might find out that it's similar for a lot of people. So that'd be my thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to come back with the map, I think, just so council can see it, biggest part. Okay, anything else? I mean, I'll mention one thing, the jump trail's done. Thanks very much to staff and the Tumbler Ridge Mountain Bike Association. I haven't had a chance to ride it or walk it, but I've seen the pictures and had quite the dialogue with Curtis Majinski in regards to it. So thanks to staff for that part. Councillor Julik?
So I'm looking at increased activities for youth. So it's like number 5 down. It says council to give staff direction. What I would prefer here is that we actually reach out to the youth, whether it's we bribe them with food or we bribe them with a gift card or whatever to get their feedback. I don't think it makes any sense for any of us adults to make a decision on what youth are going to participate in. I think that could change greatly, but I would rather have 12 pie in the sky ideas and then us put a batting cage in and all the youth go lame. And that's not a slam at Mayor Kakalka's idea. That's the one that's listed
Just
there.
throw out ideas. I'm not saying to put a batting cage in, let's be correct.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like, and I think it could be a simple enough thing with setting up at the community center and or the high school and elementary school to see what could be possible out there. There might be stuff that we could do at very little cost that the kids would think would be the coolest thing ever. Maybe even if it's throwing some money at the library for virtual reality stuff, because the kids sure like that. And, the money isn't necessarily there in the budget to make sure everything stays up to par and stuff was my experience when I was there. So, and I'll stop talking about the library, otherwise Chris will have to leave. But anyways, that's my thought. I would rather see some kind of initiative to get some feedback from the youth rather than us adults making those decisions.
Councillor Hoffman?
Thank you, Mayor. And I actually 100% agree with you, Councillor Julik, that the youth need to be consulted. But my experience with teenagers lately is that, I don't know, is pretty much the only answer we're going to get. So on this thought, I did have a couple of thoughts coming up. So I'm just going to throw them out and we'll see on the list of rejected ideas by teenagers, but that's fine. One use for the arena in the summer, I think we can probably set up 2 floor hockey areas to play. I mean, you don't need the full rink if you're going to be on your feet. I haven't seen rollerblades be a thing for a long time, so I'm going to leave that out of it, but that could be a use of the space. A little bigger thought for the town is I don't think I recall seeing a lacrosse box here. In case that's a different term here, it's basically an outdoor arena, usually has lacrosse-style nets. Not that we'd have to do that, but it creates an outdoor space where they could continue playing hockey essentially all year round, depending on where the weather takes it. Another stage with that I've seen in some towns, I don't know if that's standard in the north, is the ability to flood the arena and have an outdoor hockey arena during winter times. I don't think it's in the breadth of what we're looking at here, but if that's something the youth of the town could see themselves using, especially year-round, it's something I would like to consider. As far as batting cages, nothing against it. Let's hear what they have to say. The only thing I'm really not willing to consider is outdoor computers, which is probably the only thing that I would get out of my kids. But the other aspect it's not necessarily youth, but there's 2 racket courts off of the swimming pool. I'm wondering if those are used at any significant level, and if that space could either be converted into something for the youth or perhaps an expansion of the weight room or something like that. Before I jump in on that, I would like to hear if there is any use for those courts. I just have not seen anything, and I'm not staring at it, but I hear sporadic interest out of people other than me, but I don't see anybody really committing to spending the time in that corner.
Okay, let's get you an answer.
Sure.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. I agree. As far as I know, the courts are not utilized as much as we would like them to be utilized. There were a lot of comments about extending the gym, having a gym there as well. I know we have our fitness instructor. She does classes there, one-on-one classes, but it would be a really nice idea to expand our gym there or have youth programs there as well.
Okay. And the other alternative as part of that is have some sort of intro for squash or racquetball and see if the youth get into it for over a summer program. I know there's some rackets and some equipment, but in the end, they're nice courts. I mean, they've been maintained. And I'd just like to see some use of that corner, and maybe a high schooler whacking a ball at 100 miles an hour is something that they'll get into in a racquetball court. But thank you.
Thanks for that. So another thing we can maybe mention and see what staff's opinion is. We've heard it from a couple councillors is engaging our youth and the children. I guess I'd just like to ask the director if that's something that within the operational budget from 2023, if they think they would be able to do that in a timely fashion to bring some details back to council before we debate the budget.
Absolutely, we can do that. Just quick, I know we were asked what do we do like this summer at the arena. We do have pickleball, we do have ball hockey there and dodgeball. One thing we also do is we do have a user agreement with the school where the students can come and under the supervision of our fitness instructor, just do fitness programs, utilize the pool, arena and gym for free. So I just want to mention that to you guys, to you council.
Yeah, appreciate that, and thanks for the information. And Councillor Hoffman, just one thing, we do have an outdoor rink usually down at the golf course, all weather dependent, but there is one that's down there. The previous councils have also built the sledding hill that was down there. So they put a heated shack down there and flooded, and I don't want to say they flood it every year because it is definitely weather dependent if we have the right temperature for them to get down there. But I know last year that was conversations in regards to keeping the Zambonis, so they had that option. And another thing, I'm not sure if council remembers, but when we had the youth center or youth society come in, and we talked about what we'd had a conversation in regards, adding stuff to the curling rink and stuff like that, and how they said, well, they didn't want to take it on because they wouldn't be able to do it with the budget they had. And I think it was said then that, if they were to take it on, it would be obviously an increase to their budget to oversee that for the district. So to me, we got to look at that too, whether we want a society overseeing some of this concept or if we want district staff, because I would think if we're looking at district staff running, I mean, it's in their batting cage, or there's other things, arcade games, whatever it may be, that if we can get staff to have a youth engagement and children youth engagement and brings back some information, council can obviously attend it. When we put that stuff in, and if we expect staff to run it, that's staff time. I would think, when I see it now, I think staff capacity is something we've heard about. So to me, if we're going to start adding a whole bunch of stuff, we also got to look that we would have to add staffing, or the society, a society taking it over. So just so we know. Councillor Knoxana.
If we're just looking for input from youth, can we use the QR code system? Put up notices around town, at the high school, at the elementary school, notes going home. It's a system we already have. And then we can have a few questions. What do you want to see? How old are you? Do you live in town? How often do you visit town?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we could use, staff, if we just put a motion on the floor and direct staff to have a youth engagement, I think let them decide if it's QR code, pizza night, pop night, whatever. To me, it seems like, how do you get youth to come together and children? Feed them pizza. And that's being honest. If we want that engagement, if council doesn't want to make decisions on what we would like to see that we think the youth would use, to me, for a youth engagement, get a pizza party or something going on with staff organizing it. Council can obviously attend, but I think you'll get more engagement from the youth and the children. And have stuff there with maybe staff already has a list of ideas, whether it's batting cage. I can't remember what was all thrown out previous years. To be honest, the batting cage was not mine. But whether it's the batting cage or golf simulators, and I know we have one in town right now, and I get that. It is not for youth and children. So like things like that, I would think. Careful here, how I go to this comment, I guess. I would think certain staff that oversee different organizations within the community center, so our programmers and stuff, probably already have some ideas or have already got some information back from our youth. And I think if that's the direction, we give it to staff, let them take it away and come back. And, I don't want to say come back in a week, but it's just in a timely fashion that we can still debate it within council for a budget item if something we wanted to see it there. Again, we got to look at the total number when we start adding things, because as you add it, there's maintenance, there's repair, and there's running it. So everything costs money. You can't expect us to add a bunch of new things to the community center and not staffing or more money to a society.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. Talking about that, we did have a meeting with the youth center. Being outsider, the good thing is that we don't do things that we always do, so it's good for me to be here. So I haven't met with everybody yet, but we did talk to the youth center about some ideas, of course, of sharing the responsibilities or some programs, right, about wall climbing for youth and also movie nights, all those kind of stuff. So we're working on that, but we do like the idea about a youth engagement to get more feedback.
Appreciate that. Councillor Gillick.
Do you want me to make a motion for that or move on to my next thought process?
If it's something that we think, and I was just talking about, because you brought it forward in regards to it, and you brought it forward a couple times, and I actually believe Councillor Knox and I had brought it forward in previous meetings, and maybe it was Councillor Norberry, don't want to speak for you, but if we want an engagement, I don't think council can do it. I think, I think we did talk about like us as council, but I think it's better to have, again, state of the operational side of staff, give the direction of staff to do it, and if that's what you're doing, then we can debate that 100%.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we ask staff to engage with youth in whatever manner they feel they will, this is getting long, engage with youth to see what they would like to see as activities within our community.
Seconder, Councillor Norberry. Just want to make sure staff's captured that. Nope. Mr. Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and Council, yeah, I think we absolutely got the idea.
No, but we need to make sure they have the motion. I know I just see two people writing, so I'm not trying to, but we just want to make sure they capture the motion that Councillor Gillick read out.
Okay, can you got it?
I have that we asked staff to engage with the youth in the manner, and then Councillor Gillick changed it, so I lost that half. Can you just do the last half for me, please?
That we ask staff to engage with youth to find out what activities they would like to see within our community.
Got it.
And seconded by Councillor Norberry. Okay, discussion? Great motion. All in favor? Carried. Next.
So the one that I was looking at was the report on options for a new gym. I am visual, so I would totally want to see a visual idea. If you could throw even a stickman picture together for what those ideas are. Just add on to the sled hill. Can I do that in this mount?
Okay, sorry?
Sorry. Those ones I'd need a picture. I like the idea, I just can't actually visualize it, the whole part with the gym. Like I'm guessing that we've seen more activity in the gym if this is coming forward, because otherwise what we've had would have been working, but I can't visualize how you're looking at, like I don't see the youth center being bigger than our current gym. So that was my thought. So I'm that person who needs a picture.
Mr. Aitken.
Thanks, Mayor Council. This was before my time, so I have not much information what was the previous conversation about extending the gym or creating a new building. As far as activity in the gym, it is a busy gym, really busy. I know some of the council use the gym as well, and you can say that. If we had options to expand the gym, it would be good for the community for sure.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and it was actually a previous council brought forward, looking at anything and any way of expanding the gym. It was to the side, a building, no offense, move the library. That was not something that we wanted. That was not something that was going that way, but that's all the ideas that were thrown out. One, it was not just the in regards to the gym, but it was the daycare. We looked at every option. The previous council was just throwing out options, throwing it at staff, trying to get that dialogue back from staff, what they thought. How do we expand the gym? How do we expand the daycare? Do we move the gym, build a different building, expand the daycare into the gym? There was all that stuff was thrown on the table, and I think it's been left at that. And to me, if staff is saying that we're at capacity in the gym, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but if that's what you're saying, I'd like to hear that. And if that's what we're saying, what is the revenue? Are we losing money in the gym? Are we making money in the gym? And are we losing money because we don't have the room to make the money? And if that's the case, has staff looked at any kind of options?
Thanks, Mayor Council. Definitely, we can definitely look at the numbers and bring that to council. As my experience there, I've seen the gym; it is busy, and I know there's a lot of comments from the community. They would like to see more equipment, and there's no place to put more equipment. So that's one of the comments we get from the community. So,
okay, thank you for that, Councilor Norberg.
Thank you, Mayor Kalka. Just kind of to back up what you're saying, there's always been a lot of talk about what's going on down there. In regards, because there's been so much talk about the expansion of childcare facilities. We've been talking about a new building for so long, but I think people have been thinking about, well, we need a bigger gym, and the natural expansion would be to take over the childcare center. So we've always been talking about, okay, well, what happens if, and nothing's really happened because we've been kind of waiting on a new building. And I think that's my thoughts on this. Like, I would like to see first what happens with our childcare center, because in speaking with the childcare center, they also need room. And like some of the talks that we had previously was we'd actually expand out from the basement for the childcare center. So there's a lot of moving pieces in this project, and I think we're still at a wait and see, because we need both childcare facilities and we need more expanded gym. So we kind of should. I think we still need to see what happens with the childcare new spaces grant, and then we can sort of have discussions there. Because what are we going to choose? More childcare spaces or increased gym? That's a tough question for not today.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I don't want to pick one or the other, but I think Councillor Hoffman had a good suggestion. It seemed like there were some nods from staff, and maybe we need to explore that option in regards to the courts not being used, and hearing staffs using them already in regards to one-on-one training and stuff like that. Maybe we need to have a report brought forward of what we think we can move into those courts, which would expand what other new equipment could we either put into the courts, or if we were to move certain equipment over into the courts, which would fit better, and be able to bring in different equipment into the gym. Maybe that's what we need to do. And I agree with you. I couldn't pick. I'm not willing to build a gym if we need to build a daycare still, right? We need it for all workers, our own district employees, and healthcare and teachers and professionals. So, but I know Councillor Hoffman, that's what you'd mentioned, and maybe we need to have staff look at that option. Councillor Hoffman?
Just to expand on what I said before then, the other thought of that area is, instead of converting it, just take down the doorways and use it as flat space for the time being for expanded gym space. If we're talking about temporary and there is a building at some point being built, you don't even have to take out the courts, you just repurpose it. Worst case is that you have to refloor them then instead of restructuring or not. But I've been to the gym finally, and yeah, there's just not much physical space in that room for what's already there, much less adding to it. So I don't know if that's viable or not. I don't know if it destroys the floor if you're going to move heavier equipment on it or that, but just as a temporary measure, that if you could take out the glass and just have equipment shifted to there until we figure out what's going on with the daycare, that might work. And I think That's just it. And first, please verify that those areas aren't actually used by yet another subset of the community. But we have the room. We have the room that we have, and let's, even if we have to double up space, then let's do it.
Mr. Manson.
Thanks, Mayor Council. What I would suggest right now is to utilize the courts as the fitness classes, right? So we can move small equipment there, so to see how it goes first. Because I know fitness class, when it's more private, there's more attendance. So that's one option we could go for now, and then we can do a study to see if we can move the bigger equipment there. So.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to put a motion on the floor. Try to go slow, Karen. That we ask staff for a report in regards to options for expanding the gym or equipment into the courts. Gym equipment into the courts. And also the usage, if it will affect the usage of residents using the courts. I don't know what the number was. We were told they were being used, so. Good? Seconder? Councilor Norbury, discussion? So I guess just make a comment when I say about usage of the courts. I just want to make sure that if we decide to move, so if the report comes back that it's a good idea, I just want to make sure we're covering the bases in regards to previous usage of the courts. There was only 3 people using it in the last year. I get it, but if there was 50 people through the last year using it, I may have a concern. And then I want to make sure that we don't end up, structurally, there's no concerns there that we're going to go through the floors, or I'm not sure how it's built. It's not my forte. Councillor Clickash?
Yeah, we've done this once before, and went through that area to see if the gym could be moved there, and it is a possibility that it can, and I think the floors are strong enough and whatever. The other thing with gyms is ladies do not like to be in gyms with men, right? They feel that, I don't know, they feel that maybe somebody's gawking at them or whatever. And I think you should find out exactly what you need there, because most co-ed gyms have disappeared and they're all separated, right? Areas in a certain building might be separated for the ladies to do their thing and the men to do theirs. There's another option in that area, is the ceiling is high enough that you could put a second floor in part of it and put all the equipment, like the running equipment and stuff up on the floor above what's down below. So there's a lot of options in that area, and I think it's a good idea to really look at this situation and see what we have to do. In other words, ask the ladies what they think. Do they want to be in working out with the men, or do they want a separate area for them? And it could be separated as well in that area. So.
Yeah. I'm sure staff's capturing all this for the report. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So my thought, if we're asking for a report, is I would like to give staff free reins on this to come up with ideas, because I know there are a lot of people that are passionate about our gym facilities, and there's probably options out there that we're not going to be thinking about. Like maybe we could just move all of the cardio equipment and we put them in one of the racquetball courts. Because, I know they do racquetball, they do squash and volleyball, but maybe that can be used just use one side of it, right? And we can move all the cardio stuff over there. And we can, maybe we can even add in the, another card reader, something, right? Like we can get creative about this. So I would hope that staff, from my side, if they want to get creative, I'd be very happy to hear what they have to say, because we can do a lot of different things.
Yep, totally agree. I think we just asked for the report and didn't put any stipulations of what we're exactly looking for. So, Mr. Benson?
Thanks, Mayor and Council. The other option would be take over the library.
That's a no option. Used to like them, eh?
Yeah, so what we can do is we can I'll bring a report to council, but we can move some small equipment to the racket rooms so we can have fitness classes. So it's easier to move if there's people that want to play racket the other day, or so that's what we can do for now, and then we bring a report to council.
Okay, thank you for that. Sorry? Oh, yeah, sorry. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Carried. I owe $10. I do. I owe myself $10 for not turning my phone off. Councillor Noxana?
You brought up the pump track, or not the pump track, the jump track that's been redone with the Mountain Bike Association, and we can cross it off the list, but I think that we shouldn't forget about the user groups we have here in town that have some amazing ideas, like the jump track, that might be looking for a partner. So I'm wondering if we can reach out to an organization such as Trora, which is all of our outdoor rec groups, on one board, to see if there's anything that they have that they're thinking of going forward to capture it in this budget, so it's not a, late spring surprise.
Yeah, I think you can put a motion on the floor, and I know they were able to get some grant money from the Mackenzie Trust in regards to staffing, so you can put a motion on the floor for that.
I would like to make a motion to reach out to Trora to engage our outdoor recreation user groups before we pass the budget, to see if there's any ideas upcoming that they were waiting, to see if there's any ideas they wanted to partner with the district on.
Okay, can we just have that read back to us, please?
Yeah, sorry, I should have wrote that down.
No, it's all right. It's tough when we're doing it.
I have at staff to reach out to Trora to engage our outdoor recreation user groups before we pass the budget to see if there is any ideas to partner with the district on.
Give me that.
Yeah,
Seconder?
yeah.
Councillor Hoffman, discussion? Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. My only concern about that is, will Toro or the user groups have a capital budget to give us before we put our budget in? Like, it seems like it's not possible for us to say, hey, what's your ideas, and then we get them in for this year. My thought would be looking at 2025. We need a little more planning on this one because it's too rushed.
Yep, thank you for that. Councillor Noxana?
And I agree, maybe this is something we're looking at, a longer-term approach to keep that engagement going, but having that conversation before the budget passes. This year, next year, any year.
So I'll make a comment before I go to Councillor Julick. And my comment would be, like, we got to me, if certain organizations that are part of Tora, they have an opportunity to come in and apply for grant and aids. I think we really got to be careful when we have an agency that's attached to the district that we run, that we have somebody from staff running an organization with Tora, a group of people, that it's not just automatically the district is adding it to our budget. To me, there's grant and aid options, there's fee-for-service options. And what that does is, one, they have to have them in by a certain deadline, and we get to debate that. Because to me, we got to be careful what we all fund. I mean, we fund a ton of stuff, and if there's certain things, like I know we've already supported the Snowmobile Association in regards to their groomer and stuff like that, but that was all through grant and aids, and that's an option that's always out there to me for them to come in and apply for grant and aid. Councillor Noxana?
My concern would be that the Mountain Bike Association came in with an amazing idea after the budget passed, and we were thankfully able to help them. I was able to go check out the trails today, and it's an amazing addition to our community. What if there's other ideas they're working on, they're all volunteers, and they don't have them in time, and we don't have the budget? Should we not have those ideas in our minds as well as we go forward?
Yeah, I don't like, for myself, Councillor Knox, I don't think it's bad to reach out to them. Again, I'll be straightforward. The Mountain Bike Association did not come forward in regards to the jump trail. That was the previous council was either going to put fencing on it or dig it out. And it was because it was a safety issue that was brought forward by staff from the previous person that went and built it. So that's how that was put on the map in regards to it. So again, the Mountain Bike Association has a grant and aid through the District of Tunbridge right now. We actually cover their insurance. To me, if the Mountain Bike Association has other ideas, and to me, it's anybody that's part of TORA, I think they have the right to do a grant and aid. And doesn't mean we can't still reach out to them. They can still apply for a grant and aid within that timeline that council can debate that concept as well. So I just I have no problem supporting your motion. It's not that I'm not supporting it. I just think we got to be careful when we're just asking them to come out forward with a bunch of ideas before our budget so we can get it into our budget. There's a lot of, to me, information council would need to make sure it fits with what we want to do is all I'm saying there. Just how it was worded, I think. Mr. Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Noxana, would it be possible for you to, when you're speaking, if you could move forward to the mic? Thank you, right there. Because we're definitely not hearing you, because I know the mayor is hearing you, but the rest of us are not. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, I'm not sure who pushed it. Natalie?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My concern is reaching out to one group in town. I think we need to ensure if we make a motion that's for one group, it gives the perception, especially when we have a grant and aid process, it sort of steps back and devalues that process. It needs to be put out for all groups at the same time as a call for capital projects, if that's what you're so choosing. I just need to really caution you about going for one.
Yep, that's good information. Councillor Hoffman, then Councillor Noxana.
I may be misunderstanding, but it seems like an umbrella group for more like a general outside thing. And to my mind, with how it's discussed, it's more of a timeline request as opposed to we're going to get it in for this year's budget request. I don't know if that was the intent or not, but I just don't see a problem with the motion as is.
Yeah, so I think what the staff mentioned, it's an umbrella group of certain organizations. Not all the organizations sit on that. So there's not every outdoor organization that sits in TORA. There's multiple ones that are not sitting there. Councillor Noxana?
So maybe we defeat this,
Just
this motion and just make sure that we're advertising our grant and aid and that we need to all groups, because I really want to capture these properly this year. I feel like we definitely got some things in after the fact last year. Super happy that we were able to support them, but really want to make sure we capture them this year.
Thank you. Councillor Noberry, then Councillor Chulik.
Thank you, Mayor Kikaka. I think that's a great proposal from Councillor Noxana. In that, yes, we want to make sure that these groups feel supported and they can come to us for their capital projects. My thought is that if we go to an organization, any organization, and say, hey, do you have any capital projects for us, that may get them to put forward something that, because they feel that they need to. Or, we have this idea that's 60% done, let's put it forward. I'd like to see them, know that we want to support them in our organizations in the community, but have them approach us versus the other way around, right? Just let them know the door's open, but I want them to approach us, not the other way around, so.
Yep, thank you for that. Okay, any more discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. Councillor Julik?
I am not interested at all in the development of a disc golf course. I think we have one that's there. I have never, except for one time, seen anybody on it. So to spend any more money on it, I'm not really in favor of that, looking at the rest of the list that we have. If we were at a loss of where we could spend our money, I would maybe consider it. But just simply for the lack of use for something that's been there for 2 years. And it's not that I don't go by there quite regularly, looking to see if somebody's using it. And in fact, it had been there for a good portion of time before I ever noticed that there was anything there. So I think with the list of budget, and we haven't even gotten started with what the rest of us kind of think might be usable, I think we have a lot of activities based things within our community already and asking for more from our community services department. You know what, if the youth come out and say, yeah, you make me a trail out there and I'll play disc golf, I'll be all over it. But until then, I think this could be removed.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Noxana?
Thank you. I couldn't disagree more. We have had a user group, very active, longtime user group in Tumbler Ridge come out and specifically ask if they could use this land. They weren't even asking for the money. They specifically want the land to make it better. And they've told us stats, how many people use it in other communities. I've driven by, I've seen vehicles there, I've seen families playing. This is a way that we can get a really cool disc golf course by partnering with an organization that actively wants to do it. Why would we say no to them?
Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I do like Councillor Noxana's comments about having a cool disc golf course. But I would agree with Councillor Noxana in that I believe disc golf is something that we should be encouraging, because, like, for myself, I think this has progressed in a way that we should be supporting. What I mean by it is that we started off with a simple three-hole course outside the community center. Then we saw that expand into what we see today by the Ball Diamonds and the Saddle Club. Now, seeing that progression going from small to bigger to big to bigger, I think is absolutely what we should be doing and supporting. I mean, Councillor Judlik may not have seen people out there. I've seen people there. I've heard from community members that if we do expand this, we could be seeing tournaments, as in there are tournaments in Chetwynd, in Dawson, and this is outside of the delegation that we had. We had a delegation ask for this. And if we're looking at increased activities for our youth and our community, this is a easy, low staff activity, in that we just need to make sure that the place is mowed. And even if we don't mow it a whole lot, that's fine. It adds another feature to the course. But something we don't need somebody out there monitoring. It can be installed. It's a capital project. We won't need that much more staff hours. I think it's a great thing.
Thank you. I make comments to, and I'll go to staff. So my concern is I'd like to see exactly with the land, because land's worth value. Land has value to it. So I have not seen many people out at the disc golf this year. I can be honest, I attend about 3 to 4 meetings a week. Half of that is usually out of the community. So my concern is I'd like to know exactly the amount of land that they would want us to secure. And I would say at this point that there's 2 comments from council saying it won't cost us anything. They didn't come forward that they had the money in the budget to do it on their own. That was one of the things in conversation from the group, was that they were going to need some money. Didn't mean it was coming from us. So to me, when we start doing this, we need to make sure that if a group or an organization is going to take it on, if there's funds needed from the district numbers, we need to be right up front with it. Because to me, when we start securing land, then all of a sudden the next step is that we need to start signing up to grant and aids, and again, adding more taxes to our tax base. That's my concern. One of the things we asked staff is the usage. What was the usage on the disc golf? First, we were told, we couldn't get any numbers, but actually the discs could be rented at the community center, and they had 0 rented. So I'll go to Ms. Benson and then to Councillor Hoffman. Bento, sorry. Oh, I had you on.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. So we actually, Jason and I, we met up with the delegation that were here. We met up within a couple of weeks ago just to get more information, to see exactly what they're looking for. And they're planning to use the current land that we have in place, so they're not planning to expand the land anymore that we already have there in place. They're looking to add a few more baskets and just make sure it's official. They have the concrete pads and everything for tournaments, so they can have people here for big tournaments. They gave us an estimation how much it would cost and everything, and they're looking for a couple of things, right? Either if we can support them, or if we can get into an agreement with them so we can help them apply for grants and things like that. So I mean, the main goal is to have that in community, to have tournaments and attract more people.
So if we've had this meeting, can you tell us the amount they told you?
Sure. So with everything, the concrete, the baskets, the service, the installation, it's about 69,000. Okay.
69,000?
Yeah.
$70,000.
So and the good thing about the disc golf is just one time, right? The maintenance is pretty low, and that we do there. They don't need to do it once installed. That's all they need, right? So. Oh, sorry.
The only part I wanted to put in is because it's district property, applying for grants for the user group would need to run that through the district because the district owns the property, would also need to have an agreement done up with the user group that's going, if they're going to oversee and deal with the baskets and that, we need to have that for liability purposes to protect the district, just for some information.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman and then Councillor Noxena.
Thank you, Mayor. I just think it's premature. I mean, we just got our first number on it, and to just remove it from proposed capital projects at this stage just seems premature to me. I don't know what a tournament brings in. I don't know what the usage. And I appreciate your zero rentals, but if the people are serious about disc golf, they already have their own stuff. If they're coming from Chetwynd, they're not relying on our community center to be open and available to rent equipment. And I haven't tried it yet. It's something I'm willing to try. And for all I know, this is the next pickleball 10 years from now where we should have a 36 instead of a whatever the standard hole is. So I'm not prepared to say yes to disc golf yet, but I'm also not prepared to say goodbye to disc golf at this point. Proposed at the bottom of the list. I think it should stay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Noxena?
To buy a disc is about $8. It's a Frisbee. I can't imagine waiting for the rec center to open or getting off work and going to the rec center to rent one, even for free. It just doesn't make sense. If you want to play, you grab a Frisbee and you go play. So using rental numbers from the rec center might be a little bit skewed based on usage. We could put a trail counter out, something if we wanted accurate numbers. But my biggest issue would be a longtime user group has said, this is what we want to do. We want to do the work. We want to do the maintenance. Why would we cut them off?
Councillor Noberry and then Councillor Jilek.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. And, to add on to Councillor Noxana's comment, it's not just a random group of guys. Like this is WNMS. Like our Wolverine Nordic Mountain Society has a disc golf subcommittee or group within them. And if the WNMS is any indication, these individuals, are willing to put the work in, and they're a trustworthy organization. And if we can get to that next step of we can ensure to them that they have operational rights of that area and they can apply for grants, there's money out there for this type of thing. And if could be the next pump track, next jump trails, where we just, here's the land, you guys develop it. I can easily see that happen. And they have the experience on the WNMS to push that forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Jilek?
I'll be honest, I didn't realize it was WNMS who was asking, because my next question was going to be, what user group are you guys talking about? I thought it was a couple of guys coming in here saying, I think this is a good idea. So I will give you that point. My concern is, again, the follow-up with it all. So as Ms. Wayner said, the funding would again have to go through the town. $70,000 is a lot of money, and it increases on the tax base. For myself, I'd rather see the transfer station open 7 days a week. That land, if we give that land up, it's a fair bit of land. I would want to have an idea what that was, because once that land is transferred over to that usage, that means we're no longer able to use it. Simply when we talk about cement pads and such things as that, who's responsible for the follow-up when the cement pads fall apart possibly? Because then it becomes our responsibility, it's on our land. Do we have to give them tenure on the land if we're going to tell them that they're responsible for it? I just see a lot of different things with a lot of different price tags to it, similar to if people wanted a dog park. Like there's just it goes on and on the list. Who's responsible for replacing the baskets? Who's responsible for maintaining the cement? How much land are we giving up? What options does that leave us if we're trying to develop more things within our community when we see that the ECDEV has a budget to do some exploration about how do we improve our community and make it more user-friendly? Currently, getting out there, it's not easy to get out there because the sidewalks and that, like, so the trail development would make a difference on whether or not that space would be used. So I'm not saying maybe we never do it, but I'm saying for this year, I wouldn't support it.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I'm not saying to remove it. I think we have to have more information. It sounds like staff's had some meetings that we don't even have the information from. Whether they're going to apply for grants or they're looking for 70K from the district, which would, to me would be a grant and aid. So they'd have to apply for that. And I was well aware that it was Northern Mountain Society, and I brought it up to when they came in for the delegation. I mean, I see the post again, fresh out there, and all the advertisement capacity, their capacity, looking for volunteers to help do trail maintenance. So that's my concern is we need to make sure that if it's going to go through and council is going to have staff go and work through this, that there's proper dialogue that we are not maintaining, and if we are, what's the cost to it? And the reason I say that is, you know, when we have a bunch of trails that, you know, they're having a hard time maintaining, and I understand that this other group or committee that Councilor Norbury, you meant standalone committee for it, and I get it, the three gentlemen that came in here are very passionate about it, but to me, I just want to make sure that we have the full amount of the overhead cost of it. You know, that if that means that we're maintaining, what's the cost to it? Just you know, when we keep saying about cutting back, why do you have so much staff? Well, they have staff for a reason, because we're adding all these other services onto their plate, not ours. So that would be the only thing. It's not about removing it. I think we need more information back on the whole concept. And then if they have the land and it's our land, and we have to have, whether it's an agreement through and everything else, then grants have to be applied through or flow through the district, just how that works as well. I just, you know, I think we need a bit more information in regards to it. It doesn't need to me be removed. I think we just need more information. I'm not sure who was pushing, sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead, Natalie.
Thank you to Mayor and Council. I just wanted to express this listing of what you're going through is just initiatives that you want staff to go and look into, get more information, to bring back a supplemental for. So that supplemental form will have a SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat. So it will provide that information. It'll also show the capital cost as well as ongoing operating costs if there's a chance of that happening. So I just wanted to clarify that this process does not mean that you're approving this for the budget. This is approving that staff to go back and do the work, gather the numbers, get it together, so we can bring that forward for decisions later at a later date.
Thank you. Councilor Noxana?
I just want to clarify, when the WNMS came here, they did not say they were at capacity. They said they would be willing to do the maintenance. We have to be very clear that groups advertising that they're doing trail clearing doesn't mean that they don't have volunteers. They're letting their volunteers know where to go.
Yeah, I agree with you. But so I've been reached out by somebody from the group and saying how they're so at capacity. That's why I brought it. It wasn't a delegation that said it.
Okay.
Just so you're aware. It's been preached to, I've been on council 9 years. I think I hear it every year in regards to that, which to me, I have an idea, maybe not for the Northern Mountain Society, but for us as a group when we talked about volunteer burnout, which I'll be bringing forward. But it was right from the organization person. Okay, is there anything else council would like to discuss? Councillor Hoffman.
Mayor, Councillor Julich brought up something that's not on the list, and I know we haven't discussed it deep enough, but we talked about on the in the back of the mind is the dog parks. Is that something that's going to be on this year's budget?
It would have to be something that you bring forward. You can put it on the list. It's up to us to add things.
Well, the reason
You need the time to add it if you want to.
The reason I don't want to add it is because it was suggested that there was something in the works as far as a report goes. So that's why I wasn't looking to add it. And that's, if it's not on this year's, then maybe I would change that mind. But if it's already coming, then I don't want to tell staff to do something that they're already doing.
There's no report coming in regards to the dog park, though I know.
Okay, then
It
I
would have
would-
to come from council direction.
Okay, then I would like to suggest adding the possibility of adding a dog park to the possible proposed 2024 and 2025 council-initiated projects. Or motion instead of propose, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you have to put it as a motion, then we'll,
Okay, would you like me to reword that?
please.
I would like to make a motion to include the possibility of adding dog parks to the proposed 2024 and 2025 council-initiated projects. Sorry. I would like to make a motion to include the possibility of a dog park for the proposed 2024 and 2025 council-initiated projects.
Seconder. Councillor Dussault, discussion. Councillor Julik.
I'm a bit of a negative Nelly tonight. I'm not going to say it can't go on the list. I think it's been in front of council before. I am not in favor of it unless somebody throws together society and comes to us and asks for it. I think it's one of those things that would, again, fall on the district. I think there is plenty of area for people to connect people with their other dogs. I see more of an issue with people going to dog parks because, as it is, we don't have people that maybe mind their dogs as good as other people would like them. So then you put strange dogs in a park to not get along. So it wouldn't be anything that I would be interested in. If a group got together to say that they would take charge of it, I would maybe look at a grant and aid or possibly donating land if that was something. But I wouldn't want us to, as a district, put one together.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I mean, if this is the stage of getting information, I would like to see more information. And the reason why I say that is I've seen dog parks in communities. Like, I came from Kamloops. There was the good dog park. There was the bad dog park. Seriously, like this is where the good dogs go and this is where the bad dogs go, and it's fine. Well, my thought behind this is that we are saying to our community, keep your dogs on a leash. The idea behind a dog park, at least in my brain, is that this is the steam release valve. Okay, anywhere in the community you need to have your dog on a leash except for this spot here or in the bush outside of the district of Tumbler Ridge. I'd be interested to hear. That's where I'm at. I'd like to see what happens.
Thank you. Any more discussion? So I'll make the same comment. So I brought it forward, I think it was my first term on council. It was actually a group of residents really were pushing for it. We met for coffee, brought it forward. The amount back then was quite high, but I think a lot of times, and no disrespect to staff in the room, if staff doesn't agree with our ideas, sometimes the budget, it was increased back then. Not saying it would happen today, but that was what really stopped it. I think it was, council didn't have a huge concern in regards to it. It was the budget amount that came forward. It was that high. So to me, I don't think it's a bad idea to get a report, get some of that information back, the liability, the risk. And even that, I don't remember the whole report. There'll be a report there. There won't be, probably have to add some things to it. But there was some big concerns in regards to the ownership of it. It was suggested that a society was formed and they came forward, which the group that I was dealing with did not want any, they didn't want to take it over, didn't want to do the volunteer part. But I honestly, I support the motion that we get a report, get some information, and then let us dialogue it and then make a decision then. That would be my comment. I'll support it. Any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councillor Julik?
I would like to add to look into the cost of improving the basement of the Visitor Information Center for conference hookups with the possibility of adding or moving some artwork.
Okay, so let's just put a motion on the floor to add, and then we can get into,
Sorry.
unless you want to have a real detailed thing.
No, I was thinking I was making a motion, sorry. I was thinking it, but obviously, I'd like to make a motion that we add the Visitor Center basement upgrade for easier use for technology. I don't know how to phrase
You got to
it.
speak into your intercom because they're not hearing you, your mic.
Basement upgrades?
Well, it's because when we had a meeting there, just so maybe somebody can help me form it, I just would like to upgrade the technology in the basement at the visitor center.
Technology upgrade for the basement. Does that work?
I think so. I'd also like to see some artwork, but I feel like we could just ask staff to do that with stuff we already have.
Okay, so if you could just read back the motion that you have, please.
Motion that we add the visitor information center basement upgrade, technology upgrades for the basement. Oh, read that basement in there 3 times, but that's not the same.
Okay. Seconder? Councillor Dussault, discussion? So I'll make a couple comments. I have a couple questions in my comments too. We used to have TVs down there. When that was first constructed by the previous council, and the idea was that that was supposed to be a room that could be rented out for people having meetings and such. There were some large TVs that were down there. I'd be curious to find out if the district knows where they went. I think Councillor Judik's talking about a couple of Zoom meetings we've had down there that makes it very, very difficult to hear via Zoom when it's coming through the projector. And to see it. But I know there was TVs down there. I'm just curious if we know where they went. I'm not sure if anybody wants to.
Thanks, Mayor
Yes.
Council. The meeting we had there, I think it was yesterday, right? It was my second time there, so I can definitely take a look to see where the TVs are and let council know.
Okay, thank you. I know they were there, and I'm not sure where, maybe they were taken and used somewhere else, but there used to be 2 big TVs in regards to having these meetings, so. Councillor Clickash?
Yeah, they were NEC monitors. They're not actually TVs. There was
sorry.
a computer and program computer that ran them. And it was for training all the people that wanted training in there from town and from the district or employees or whatever. And somehow they disappeared. And so did the computer and everything else. That was a $20,000 installation.
Okay. Councillor Judik, then Councillor Hoffman.
And part of the meeting that I was talking about was actually last week. We had some healthcare meetings in there, and it was really difficult. We were doing Zoom on the screen, and so the difference would be like this screen, if the lights are on, you can still see that person. And the person, though, on the other end couldn't see us because the camera was so far away, and then the darkness of the room. So I don't know if the screen would make a difference on that, but the sound was terrible. Like, there was way too much bass. And it just wasn't a comfortable way to have, like, there was stuff that I felt were getting missed, similar to, if we're sitting too far back and stuff like that. And I just feel like, particularly with, we really only have one full-on video-controlled room, which is the room over here, which holds 8 people, maybe 10 if you crowd us in, whereas the basement gives us a few more options. So I think that would be beneficial for our staff and for the rental benefits for whoever's running the visitor center and other user groups that could use it, because those are really kind of it. I know if we really, anyways, that's my thought. And it wasn't, like I say, it wasn't just the TV screens, it was the sound system and everything.
Councillor Hoffman?
Thank you, Mayor. And just let's start off the bat, I'm in support of the motion, but GeoPark holds their monthly, meetings there. And with the tabletop speakers and multiple people on Zoom, it's functional. I don't know if that's sufficient for what you're talking about, and I think there's a lot of potential for that room. But it sounds like the technological base is already in that room, and it may be an equipment problem as much as anything else. But I think we should look to expand that room. That's a nice room. Even the view out there, even though it's a sub-basement, is not a bad view, and it just seems to fill a potential gap for the town to fill that mid-size level that we were looking for. So I'm not sure if it's just the technology or if it needs really an upgrade, but I'm in support of the motion, and you can ask Amanda if how she uses the tech in the room for the time being.
Thank you. Any more discussion in regards to the motion on the floor? Call the Councillor Nober.
Thank you, Mayor Kikauka. I mean, maybe Councillor Julik can enlighten me. And how many times a year do you think this will be used? Because I've seen technology upgrades go from anywhere from 10 to here. This is $70,000 for what we have here. I'm not against it, but I think if we're looking at a dollar amount, we should also be seeing how much usage would be seen there, right? We had a big discussion earlier about the disc golf costing, and we want to know numbers about people using it. Similarly, how many times a year will this be used would be my question.
hang on a second. Before I go to Councillor Julie, I'll be honest, Councillor Norbert, I'll just make a comment. I think staff maybe would have numbers, and if they don't, I think the Geopark would, and how many times it gets rented out or used. Obviously, we just heard that the Geopark uses it monthly. The district is starting to use it in regards to the PCN committee meetings. That'll be monthly over there. I know the district Tunbridge is starting to use it themselves in regards to some of the training. Previously, I think we'd have to contact, unless staff has that number handy, but if not the Geopark. But I totally agree with you. If we're going to spend money, I think we need to have some of that dialogue. But to me, when we get the report, just to get the information, what the cost was, and maybe there won't be much of a cost if the TV and the computer that Councillor Clickash was talking about is found. Maybe it was just removed it wasn't being used down there, so they moved it somewhere else where it could be used. I don't know. And maybe it was aged already, even I'm sorry, but I know tech-wise, the upgrades are constant, whether it's 3 or 4 years, it's obsolete, you have to buy new. So, Councillor Julich?
Yeah, and I appreciate your comments, Councillor Norbury. And one of my comments was going to be, well, maybe our first step is to find out where the existing equipment that Councillor Clickash is talking about went to. And then I don't think we need anything as sophisticated as this room. I think just something that we can actually have a reasonable Zoom connection with without having to. I know that the system that they have at the Geopark is usable, but if those little mics are not in quite the right space within the room, it doesn't work. And I don't know if that equipment belongs to the district or if that equipment belongs to the Geopark. So those would be some things. So I realize that this is it's more than a one-step process here, but I think that it's worth looking into and trying to get it done. And if we're going to include it in the budget, this is the time to start with it.
Thank you. Any more discussion in regards to the motion on the floor? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, is there anything else council like to discuss or bring forward? Councillor Dussault.
Spray Park. I see it says here this project was in the 2023 budget, and it was waiting for funding. Did we ever hear anything on any funding for that?
No, I'll go back to staff, but I know they were waiting to, for grants, applying for grants. To me, I think I still support the concept of it staying in the budget and hoping for a matching grant, which, there is some conversations out there. But I think it's something that staff will have to wait to hear on.
Okay. Well, then can I make a motion that this does get moved forward into the 2024 budget?
Yep. Well, it will be.
Okay.
It's on the sheet for 2024, 2025.
Okay. Thank you.
Dennis, do you have something to announce to us?
Thanks, Mayor and Council. When it comes to funding for Splash Park, or Spray Park, sorry, the funding we have out there, they're tied to employment. Okay, so let's say they require us to have some type of continuous employment, most of the funding. So we do have employment to build the Spray Park, but not to be there like a swimming pool. When I spoke to other communities, the way they funded their water park, their spray park, it was a combination of a budget, donations, sponsorship, and some funding, right? We have many options in terms of how big we want this, the spray park. It goes from 250,000 to, if you want a really nice one with a washroom, benches, canopy, and other things, lights. We can go almost to $1 million. So I think we put $500,000 in the budget, and we're expecting to get some funding. But at this point, we weren't able to find any grants for that.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think, again, I agree with you, Councillor Dussault, leaving it in again for next year. I think we're going to see some different streams come available. There's some conversation in regards to that, so.
Mayor and Council, I just didn't want you to lose track. From earlier, you talked about a spring cleanup day, and that would be an extra initiative. So if you want that, this would be the time to add that to this.
Thank you. Have it on my list.
Okay.
Thank you, though. Thanks for the reminder. Anything else from council want to talk about or bring forward? Okay, I have a couple things. Mr. Woodward, so I have some concerns, and I don't know if it needs to be council initiatives put into the 2024-2025 budget for financial-wise, but maintenance. So maintenance on the dinosaur that's at the Vic Center. Not sure if anybody's aware of it, but we're adding so many things to the dish that I think we're losing. And to me, the reason I asked that, like, do we need to put a number in the budget for maintenance so that when stuff comes forward, whether it's council that sees it or our residents, that we have money set to the side to do the maintenance? So I know we were all over at the Vic Center the other day that we bought a dinosaur carving from Chetwynd, from the town of Chetwynd. It is situated over by our Vic Center. It's falling apart. The cost of that was $15,000. So the reason I asked that question is where does maintenance fit into budgets? Is it in operational? And are we budgeting enough under operational, or should we add some under the council initiatives?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to refer this to our Director of Community Services. We know that these are operational factors, but there are other circumstances that come with assets that are like that. So,
Over to me.
yeah, okay, the finance as well, too. Okay, so, Mr. Bento, maybe you comment first and then finance?
Thanks, Mayor and Council. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, so one of the goals we have as well for this next budget is to add another position for maintenance. I know with many capital projects we have this year and another, we also take care of other buildings, the museum, the Willow, all the other buildings in town that falls under public service, we do take care. So it requires a tremendous amount of maintenance staff for that. And that's our plan, is to add another full-time staff to the next budget. I'll let Natalie comment on.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I see we let him sneak in first. I wanted to point out that what is currently for the maintenance right now is your current service level. So if we want to do more maintenance, those are an additional, which will be a supplemental form, which will also have those things addressed for the strengths, weakness, and help. So in the case that Community Services brought forward, it's a case of saying, yes, we're increasing the service levels. It's because things are deteriorating, so we need to up and we want to increase that service level. So that's how that'll come forward. If there's anything in particular in an area that you're seeing that service level is not being met, please let us know, and then that would be a supplemental for staff to address. It would definitely be the time right now.
Okay, so it'll be an operational maintenance, so I don't have to bring that.
It would be an operational, but it's still additional service level, so it'll come as a separate item.
Okay, thank you. So the other thing I'm going to ask for, another motion for staff to produce a report in regards to a spring cleanup that is picked up at residential properties, larger items than that do not fit within our bin. And it just for a budget, if we get a cost. If I can get a seconder, Councillor Julik, discussion. So I know I mentioned it earlier, and it's just, I'd like to see what the cost, or we think the cost would be. I know I've heard it from a few of our residents. They're looking for people to haul stuff down to the transfer station and stuff like that, and which is great. I mean, I think if people can help out, I think that's what this community is about, is helping each other out and stuff like that. But it would be just nice to see what kind of cost it would be if we were to do it, whether it's one weekend or one day. I mean, I don't think the staff could do it in one day, so it'd have to be a weekend thing in the summer or spring and then maybe in the winter, but just to see what the cost would be and see what council thinks about that. I'll go to Council Noberry and then to staff.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Some things that immediately pop to my mind is questions for yourself. Will this be open to the entirety of the community? Is there any restrictions on this? The reason why I ask that is it sounds like a great way for me to take all my stuff and put it on my lawn and have somebody take it for me. And I could see this just ballooning into a major project. Maybe yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I'm not saying open it up for everything, but yeah, more or less, like the coaches, I'm not looking at but vehicles and motorhomes and old boats and all that. like, I think, I mean, again, I don't want to get on the operational side where I go out and get the material from the other communities that done it and then bring it forward and put it on the desk. I think staff has been great in regards to reaching out and getting the proper information and bringing it forward to council. I mean, we've seen a couple of reports in regards to the transfer station tonight. I mean, we had 3 different options. Good background information, good budget cost. I think it was a great report. I mean, pretty clear in general when you got to the meeting tonight, if you read your report, to me, that you had all the information in front of you and pick which one you want to go with or keep it the same way. And, to me, I think staff's been great when they bring forward reports. And to me, I think they'll capture it all. And we have an idea and we don't like it, we just don't add it. I mean, you don't have to support it. Like, we don't have to ask for the report. Because, again, every time we ask for a report, and I've preached it before, it costs us money. It costs staff time for sure. So if this is something that council's, don't support it, I'll actually practice that, don't support it, because again, it's going to cost staff time to go and do this report. It's not an hour of staff time, it's probably 15 or 20 hours to get the proper report. So to me, if council's really waving on this, I wouldn't support it, but I am going to support the motion. I'm going to go to staff first and then Councillor Jilek. Mr. Bradley?
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. One question that I do have in order to build out this report is how long are we running this program? So is it a weekend? Is it a week-long program? And my other concern is how this flips on the backside at the transfer station as far as bringing in additional bins and whatnot for costing.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you that it's a weekend. To me, if staff was to say, if we started this Saturday morning, we could have the community done by Sunday, to me, it's a 2-day thing. Again, I don't want to say, oh, do it in 2 days, because I've gotten in trouble when I say, you can have it done by tomorrow, and I've gotten in trouble doing that, and disrespecting an employee by saying it that way. So to me, I'm going to leave that up to staff. If the staff thinks they can do it in 2 days, and they don't want to do it on Saturday and Sunday, and want to do it on Friday and Saturday, that's up to you guys. And just looking for a cost, it might not even get supported. But I appreciate the question. I just don't want to get in that realm of your.
For sure, I just, if it's a week-long thing or a weekday thing, it's different than a weekend.
And I agree too. Yeah.
So there's that part of it. Another bit of clarity for myself is, is if we now fall into days after the program, and somebody was like, "Oh, I forgot put my couch out." Now we have, you know what I mean? I have to ask those questions as well.
Yeah, 100%.
How we cover that.
100%, Mr. Bradley. I guess, including in the report or in my motion, I should have stated that we would make sure we do a proper pre-advertising campaign that this is going to happen. It's 3 days, 2 days, whatever the town figures it takes to do it, and it's whether we do it once a year or twice a year. It's just, I hope I'm clear enough. Again, I want to try and stay out of the operational side of doing it. I can supply you information if you need more later. Councillor Julick, then Councillor Hoffman.
Well, it sounds like a really good idea for me. I just feel like there's too many variables. I'm not going to be able to support it. I just think that even I had the same questions as Mr. Bradley brought forward, and I have a whole lot more as the same as Mr. Norbury or Councillor Norbury, and the fact that, so how much garbage is everybody going to bring out and who's going to be responsible? My other concern is that we have had people in the past in our community who make money doing that. They charge fairly reasonable prices to do dump runs, and I think that would, and I understand this would only be for a couple of days or a week or whatever, but I think that puts us kind of in competition. Yeah, I just think that there's other options available out there. Plenty of people go online as well and say, hey, I need this done. I'll give somebody $20 or whatever that looks like. So I understand where your heart's at with it, but I won't be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting the motion, and a suggestion, definitely not telling you how to do your report here, but functionally in the previous town that I was in, it was specific for large items, things that don't fit in your garbage bin, and as you already specified, vehicles and like tow away size is not, so you would basically have from sofa or an old furnace or whatever it is that would just be unwieldy, and they also put a limit of 2 on it, that you can put 2 of those on your front walk. And just to further complicate your life, you could also have it be pre-reported. I will have 2 items on my lawn on that given day and have the truck go through. So there's whatever makes sense for you, but you can always restrict it down to make it functional for how you would operate it, given transfer station, available trucks, available personnel, and however you want to do it. I don't disagree with Councillor Julich. I think there are very much people that are going to be unhappy with that. But if we're doing it once a year, just sort of as a help the town clean up, get some stuff out of the backyards or from under the deck, I think it would be used. And therefore, I would like to know, is that worth it to us to do that once a year or not? So that's where I am with it.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukelka. At this point in time, I don't think I can support it until we have better defined limitations on this. Because, like, for myself, like, I can easily see my household taking advantage of this, but my household doesn't need that because I have a vehicle that can get my stuff down to the transfer station. I don't think it should be for everybody who has access. When you commented, Mayor Kukelka, when you commented that it's for people who can't access, who can't make it, I would love to see something like this for them. But for the average Joe, you can throw it in your vehicle and you bring it down to the transfer station. I think that is where this should be for the people in need, not for anyone who can just take advantage of it. And that's where I'm at. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Norbury. I just don't think you can limit it to that. And like when we talk about limitations in regards to the material, to me, I would hope to see that in the report. Again, I don't want to do too much for indulging on a report for staff because to me, that's their expertise, not mine. They have an understanding of a lot more thoroughly on what equipment they have and manpower. So that's what I'm thinking. And limiting to certain group or certain resident, to me, I don't think I could do that. That's why I say open up to all. And maybe I don't have anything because, again, I have a vehicle, but maybe I do just to partake in it. So that would be my only comment. Councillor Julich and then Councillor Norbury.
I just had a couple more thoughts, and they were, how does that look for them having to pick stuff up? So if it's in the back of a pickup, if it's in the back of a gravel truck, if it's in the back of a whatever truck, that's also putting our workers at risk, depending on what that looks like that's coming on the lawn, because now they're picking up somebody's couch, they're picking up somebody's wall unit that's 20 years old and weighs way too much and that kind of thing. So that was part of the reason I understood that we went to the different kind of garbage cans, was because we had staff that was having to lift the garbage cans, and that was an added physical labor that, anyways, those are my two thoughts to go with my reason for not voting in favor of this.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukelka. To add on my previous comments, I think back to snow removal. We don't shovel everyone's driveway, but we do shovel people's driveways who go through a process through town hall because they're in need, because they can't do it themselves. And that's where I'd like to see, if we do this, where this to go, not just open to everybody, because people can manage it themselves, right? So, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Any more discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, is there anything else council wants to discuss in the sheet or bring forward? Councillor Julich?
Will I have another opportunity to bring things forward?
I wouldn't look at staff. I'm going to absolutely, at any point, this is council's budget, so if we have something in 2 weeks, I think we can ask for a report. And I understand what finance is trying to do, and so no disrespect to staff, Mr. Woodward, but if council all of a sudden has something that comes up and they want to bring it forward, you just have to pass it through council. That's be my concept.
Okay. And one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Will we also get a report on things that we approved last year that weren't finished this year? I don't see a new sign up at the community center, which I know we approved, and it's not up. I'm wondering what's happened with that. And so what does that look like moving forward? Will we get a report on that stuff?
Yeah, there'll be 100%. It happens every year. We'll get a report on regards to carryover and what things are happening in regards to stuff that hasn't been completed yet. There could be reasons. Availability, stuff to extended time. I know there's some stuff that they're, ordered it now and it's going to show up in 2024. So there's that kind of option, but it will come forward. Natalie.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I planned in November to bring back another capital like you had in the summer. So you'll have a progress report. So while we're starting to deliberate those capital items, then we'll have it. My concern, though, about items that are brought back at the last minute, there may not be time for staff to do the full assessment for you with ongoing maintenance costs. So while, yes, council can add at any point in time, every time it gets added farther in the process, there's not as much time for staff to prepare the full details and give the council the full information.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but again, it'll be council's budget and council can add, and, you know, we put a motion on the floor, and if it's supported by council, and then if staff has the time, they'll get the information for us. Councillor Jilek?
All right, I think this will be it for me for tonight. I am wondering about the signs coming into Tumbler Ridge. I shouldn't say signs plural, signs singular, out at Chetwynd. So the Chetwynd sign, it's looking very run down. I think that we've done a fairly amazing job branding our community. So I would like to make a motion that we look at either replacing that sign or at least removing it, and what would that cost?
Okay, can you read that motion?
I would like to make a motion that we look at replacing the sign or removing it, and what would that cost?
Okay, seconder? Councillor Dussault, discussion? Councillor Norberry?
Can I get a little more clarification on the sign? Are we talking about the billboard that is just past the turnoff to Tumbler from Chetwynd, and we own that?
So there's a sign just before you turn on to Highway 29 coming into Tumbler South, Highway 29 South. There's welcome Tumbler Ridge, or visit Tumbler Ridge. It's right in the ditch. It's fairly big. Okay. Councillor Jilek?
I was just going to confirm that space, so that's fine. And I'm fine to hear from Ms. Olson if that's something that she's looked at already, but otherwise I'm just as happy to leave it on the motion list.
Thanks. So I'll make a couple comments. I'll go to staff. I'm not always, I'd rather split these motions. I'm not in favor of either replace it or remove. What's the cost? To me, we're going to debate what's cheaper. I believe this came up with a community center sign, and it was like that's how the kind of tool we're going to use to debate it. And to me, I know I can't say to staff that this information's already there, but this information is here. When we did the new signs in regards to the 3 signs that we did install, there was signs and different options for the one by Chetwynd as well as coming in from Dawson. So there's already a report there with, and that doesn't mean we can't change those options. So I'm not saying to follow that exact report, but there is a report already. I mean, I would assume it's somewhere in Town Hall. With the design and everything else, it actually matches the other signs that were done, just a different size for the one by Chetwynd. So it was something that we looked at back then, but it was just the cost. How many signs do you replace it the same year? But again, I can't support the motion on the floor only because it's like, let's debate if it's cheaper to remove it and not have something up there. To me, I think we're trying to brand. We definitely want to try and capture those people that are traveling down Highway 97. So to me, let's get a cost of what it is to replace the sign, not about removing the sign. I can't support that one when it's like that. That would just be my comment there. Staff, I'm not sure who pushed the button, so I didn't see. Mr. Bradley?
Mayor and Council, oddly enough, this conversation came up recently. So I reached out to Chetwynd. One of the concerns was the tree growth around the sign. And I was informed that due to it being a decorative sign, they believe that it would fall under us as a district.
Yep.
And, or I could reach out to Modi to see if they would do the maintenance around the sign in itself. So, but as far as the sign, we started having these conversations.
Thank you. Councillor Jilek?
I would like to amend my motion to ask for cost to remove the sign. And then I have another motion after that.
Okay. So an amendment, cost to remove the sign. Seconder on the amendment? Councillor Hoffman? Discussion on the amendment? Okay. Again, I won't support the amendment in regards to, I don't think we need to be removing the sign. I think we need to replace it. Obviously, if we're going to replace it, it has to be removed, but I don't think it needs to be removed until we can replace it or at least get a cost to replace it. Any more discussion? Sorry, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. My thoughts is, are we looking for a report on signage options at that area? Because if your next request, Councillor Julik, is to look at a cost to change the sign there, it makes sense just to have a report on that sign.
Yeah, well, like right now, the amendment is not that. The amendment is to have a report with a cost to remove it.
I'd like to see something all together. So I think we should vote this down and have something all together.
Okay, hang on a second. Hang on. Councillor Jilek?
So my next motion's going to see about just asking Modi about signs. Like realistically, we as Tumbler Ridge are not responsible for putting signs up, directional signs to Tumbler Ridge. My thought right now is the current sign does not match our branding and obviously not very well seen because Councillor Norbury, you know, I don't know how often he goes to Chetwynd, but, you know, he wasn't sure of which sign it was because it's not noticeable, because it's grown up. The trees have grown up around it and it's faded so much. So for me, we remove it. I feel like the signage, even coming to Tumbler Ridge, needs, like off of 97, when you're going to Chetwynd, could be a little more in your face, because we still have people who drive past 52 and end up in Chetwynd to come all the way around on 29. So my thought is if we get rid of the sign, we could at some point look at replacing the sign, but if we got rid of the sign and made sure that we still had signage on the Chetwynd side saying that this is the way to Tumbler Ridge, brought by Modi, because I feel like that's their responsibility, that we start there, and then we can look at another sign, because if we're gonna put a sign at Chetwynd, I feel like we need to either do one at Dawson or at the Highway of 52 East, and I don't know that I'm prepared to look at that this year so far as a cost, but I certainly don't like having the one that's there.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion in regards to the amendment? Okay, call the question. All in favor on the amendment? Opposed? Carried. Okay, if you could just read out the amended motion now, please.
The original motion with the amendment is what you're looking for? I would like to make a motion that we look at replacing the sign. Amend the cost to remove the sign. That was the amended motion, was it not?
Yep.
Amend the motion, cost to remove the sign.
Okay.
That's what I captured.
And any discussion on the amended motion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. Councillor Jilek?
I would like to make a motion that we have staff reach out to Modi to make sure that the sign, I'm gonna stop because I need to make sure what I'm asking for. I need to go drive out there.
Yeah, so I actually believe what you're talking about is the green, and I'm going to say it's green, I could be wrong, but green sign that says Tumbler Ridge, there's a sign there, including the one at turn? Yes. There was. Now, I'm not going to say it's still there. Maybe there was an accident. So I'm going to put a motion on the floor now that you want to talk about signs. I'm going to put a motion on the floor that we have a report from staff in regards to replacing the district-owned signage. Yeah. The district owned sign at Chetwynd's turn from 97 on to 29 South. Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Hoffman. Discussion?
Isn't that highway's responsibility to have directional signs?
So it's not the directional sign, it's the one that says Visit Tumbler Ridge. It's a brown sign and white writing on a big cement pad that has trees that are 4 feet higher than the
Yeah, I see
cement
it.
pad. That sign is owned by the district of Tumbler Ridge.
Oh, it is?
That's our sign. That one is. So the reason I'm asking for that, because I know we have the information, I know the cost has probably gone up, but it was something that we looked at doing in phases, and we never did make the motion to do some signage in phases. And I think it's very important to make sure that we are doing all we can to advertise Tumbler Ridge, especially off these major highways. That's why I'm looking for the cost. Doesn't mean we have to go with it.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to mention too that Northern BC Tourism, along with Destination BC, is working on a signage plan for the north, and Tumbler Ridge is one of the iconic destinations. So I just want to make sure that if we're going to move forward with any new signage at those entrances, that we're working with DBC and Northern BC Tourism on making sure we're not doubling up on something.
Yep, appreciate that, and maybe that within the report, staff can reach out to that. But to me, I'm looking for the same branding that we've put in our own community at the highway. Councillor Julik?
So I'm not going to support this motion, not because I don't think the sign should come down, but I think that, or not that it shouldn't be replaced, but I think we need to take it down first. And as Ms. Olson has said, that there's DBC and NBCT making some moves towards that. So if we put that cost on our budget this year when there might be money coming from Destination BC, then we're getting ahead of ourselves. I feel like if we take the sign down and if there's directional signs there already, we're not losing anything. We're waiting to see what comes next. But that's just me.
Yep, great. So we're just looking for a report. Doesn't mean that this amount's going on our budget till it's approved to go onto our budget. Just like the rest of the items that we've asked for reports. Councillor Julik?
So then we get the money for what it's going to cost to replace the sign, but we still don't know what it's going to cost to take down the sign, and that sign is still sitting there.
So I have a lot of faith in staff. I would think if we're looking to replace a sign, just like we replaced the other signs around the municipality, it was an all-in cost. So they know that they check it all. I really have good faith in the staff because I've been here 9 years and that's how the reports come forward. It's, I believe when we approved the community center sign, we didn't get a cost to remove the old one and put the new one up. It's a total cost. So that will come forward. Councillor Noberry?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka, and I'll support this motion because, I mean, to Councillor Julik, it sounds like this will encompass what you're looking for. But it gives staff the opportunity to take a look at it, give us some options, and it sounds like our new economic development officer is volunteering themselves to make sure we have those connections. Not saying that, that's what's going to happen, but, it sounds like we got our bases covered there, so thanks.
Councillor Julik?
And maybe I misunderstood, but I thought the reason you guys were against my original motion was because I wanted those prices separated. So that's why I'm asking.
Okay. Any more discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Any other items the council likes to bring forward? Okay, question and answer period. Any email questions? Mr. Woodward?
None, Your Worship.
Thank you. Resolution to close the meeting. Take the recommendation. Councilor Norbury? Sorry, my throat's.
It's okay, I got it.
Start coughing here.
That the October 4th, 2023 special council meeting be closed to the public according to Section 91C of the Community Charter to permit discussions about labor relations or other employee relations.
Seconder, Councilor Dussault. All in favor? Carried. 5-minute recess.
I just
Increase rates.
No, I'd rather have that in an open agenda for residents.
that's
to be
what I
able to
meant.
read. I'm sorry, I don't think that should have been in our closed agenda.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Our residents have a chance to read that before we just send a motion, in my opinion. Unless council wants to put it on there, then go ahead, but I won't vote in favor. That shouldn't be in, no, we're backing home, but that should not be in, to me, that information should have been in open.
Yeah.
That's, our residents have a right to come and talk to us first before we increase a huge amount.
Okay.
We're in open now.
Okay, take an adjournment of the open, please.
That we adjourn the October 4th, 2023 special council meeting.
Seconder, Councillor Noxana, all in favor? Carried.